Welcome, everyone, to another chapter of Murder in Startton County. A murder mystery with twists and turns. Written by Elizabeth Spoon and Ryland Mason. Narrated by me, Brian Shepard. Welcome, everyone, to Season 2 of Murder in Startton County. The mystery saga continues. Episode 1. Let the killing begin. Spring is the best season when it comes to Startton. The town seems to come alive with residents and those from the city looking to get away. Local farms are in full swing, growing and producing for the county and beyond. Everyone would be walking the streets, admiring each other's perfect, well-kept lawns and the flowers that were being planted. Main Street would be busy with those grabbing breakfast or lunch down at Alice's general store, or maybe enjoying a nice slice of pizza at the table outside Maria's pizza restaurant. Mothers would be seen playing with their children in the center park alongside the water fountain, which sat directly in front of Town Hall. Mayor Shepard liked hearing the laughter and noise of happy kids. Meant things were okay. As Brian stood in front of his large office window, he saw no one, not a soul. A few vehicles passed through town, yet other than that, no kids playing in the fountain. No residents saying hello and waving as they walked the main street. Maria's seemed to be empty. The happy atmosphere has definitely changed since he and his boyfriend Jordan escaped on a cruise for a friend's wedding, which sadly was interrupted when the ship sank. Luckily, Brian and Jordan made it off, along with everyone else. Well, there was one person who kind of made it off, in a body bag, that is. Judge Sophia Patel. Sadly, as her rise in power went to her head, leading her to wanting more, mainly Brian's job, she got greedy, and her evil plan backfired, and she was killed in a horrible accident. Her evil go-doer and sidekick Doobie was arrested, and now in custody down at the sheriff's office. Even though Brian was able to leave and escape Startton, the problems he left behind were still here and not going away. From the information that Doobie provided to Brian and Jordan while in the ship's holding cell, proved that Jordan's father was behind the killings. However, the hired someone is now going rogue and killing off targets that were not on the list. This situation that they have gotten themselves into has finally reached the attention of the FBI. Sheriff Ratchet had no choice but to call in a favor from a friend of his, Director Valerie Winchester. She was on her way up from D.C. A new officer was added to the sleepy and dying town, Deputy Darby, whose job is to protect the mayor, giving Deputy Marks more time to help Sheriff Ratchet investigate the recent murders in town. The murderer is still in town. Brian could feel it. Now that Brian was back, a vacancy had opened up at the courthouse. Poor Sophia is gone, which means Brian would have to find another candidate for the post. That, and it would seem that his re-election might be off to a good start, now that his rival is, well, dead. It had been a few months since the death of Prudence' great-aunt Linda, who was found dead behind Town Hall, dragged from her car, ending up behind a dumpster. She was the last connection to Prudence, Brian's loyal maid, who had worked for him for years. They became almost like family, so the loss hit him hard. With everything going on, Jordan tried to be as supportive as he could. Everyone did. Things were falling apart for Brian. He figured with all the murders surrounding him, the fire at his home, which a clear message that he was to die, no one was going to vote for him, and that this would haunt him if he ever thought of running for governor. So, as Jordan tried to raise Brian's spirits, it just seemed to throw a wedge in between them. Brian would hide away in his cottage while work on the mansion continued. Jordan would sometimes catch Brian after work, heading up to the big house, as Jordan calls it, stalking the grounds, watching the crew, making changes, pointing things out. It wasn't till the invitation to a friend's wedding that seemed to be in Jordan's favor. Brian can still remember the conversation. Have fun, Brian said, waving off the invitation that Jordan just read aloud while sitting back down at his desk. Babe, this would be good for you. And me. No, I can't possibly just up and leave. I have a town to run. You're going. Doctor's orders. Overruled. I'm sure there's some law I can pass. Not happening. Besides, it's on a cruise ship, and I really know. Brian cut Jordan off, now staring out the large window. Pack your bags. You're going, Sheriff Ratchet said, as he stood in the doorway, like he just came out of thin air. Jordan smiled. There was a plan in place by the time they were ready to leave, to draw out the killer. There were no murders during the time Brian and Jordan were gone, which gave Dugan plenty of time to investigate even more into Prudence and her aunt's deaths. Deputy Marks was on the hunt for this mysterious person, who was last seen inside the police station stairwell with Brian. The person was almost apprehended by Marks, who chased after along with Jordan. Even with cameras in the stairwell, Dugan found nothing that would give a clue as to who it might be. His face was covered with what seemed like a mask with an image on it. The state police over in the city were able to clean up the footage sent over by Dugan. It wasn't till now that he could watch it with high clarity that instantly he noticed that the suspect's mask was black. However, the white blurry lines from before were now a redefined human skull. Interesting. Debbie? Brian called out to his secretary, who sat outside his office. Yes, sir. Can I get you some coffee? No, thank you. I believe I'm done for today. I have a town meeting tomorrow, mostly about the new development for the resort. If Jordan or the sheriff happen to stop by, just let them know that I'll be up at the house, grabbing some things before heading to the cottage. Very good, sir. I'll leave word, and I'll see you in the morning, she said as she smiled and turned and walked back to her desk. There was nothing else he could do here at work. Meetings have been kept to official town business only to reduce the amount of visitors inside town hall. Ugh, he just remembered. He can't just leave. He has a babysitter now. Officer Darby normally sat across the room from Debbie in the waiting area. The chairs were located near Brian's door. This way, Darby could see everyone checking in with Debbie, which meant he knew who was entering Brian's office. The only thing Brian didn't care for is the walk to the restroom. Officer Darby is the first one to check it out and make sure it's empty and secure. Sometimes it's almost like he has his own secret service. This sucks, he thought as he spotted Darby slouched down in a chair reading a book. Rolling his eyes, noticing the cover and the name, Rylan Mason. Of course he would read this crap. Brian and Rylan went to college together. Not a fan. Officer Darby, you're still here, I see, Brian said sarcastically as he walked out of his office, past Darby, heading for the elevator. Now that stairwells were a no-no. Noticing the coat and briefcase in Brian's hand, Darby was quick to get up and out of the chair and follow Brian. Mayor Shepherd, we have spoken about this on many occasions. I am here to make sure you are safe as the elected official. That and someone who pretty much is supposed to be dead. So, no, you cannot just wish me away. May I ask where you are heading? There's no fighting it. Jordan would flip if he had left without Darby. Dugan would not be too pleased either. I'm going up to the house. I'm done for today. I'm going to grab a few things before heading to the cottage for the night. All right, I'll follow you up there. Make sure everything is all right. I'm sure Mr. Prescott will be up and can take over from there. Fine. Rylan Mason, I see. A fan or just bathroom reading? Smiling as the elevator closed and headed to the garage level, where both Brian and Officer Darby's cruiser were parked. No one had access to the garage doors except the one with the door opener, Officer Darby, and of course the mayor. Out of town they headed. Brian's mansion was not that far from Jordan's place, the old Jones farm. The big house was about half a mile up the hill, overlooking the farms. When the town was founded and the settlers began to stake their claim on land in and around the town, it was the O'Brien family who decided to settle on a hill overlooking the town center and came with land on either side of that hill. The O'Briens were held in high regard as they were considered upper class, wealthy, and made money selling livestock and crops from local farms they owned. They were also close to those in power and politics. When the Great Famine happened in 1845, the money slowly stopped flowing. Nothing was growing. The remaining livestock were killed off for food for the family. After that was gone, people started to get sick and die. Wills and trusts changed beneficiaries so many times until Brian's great-great-great-grandmother, Mary, and 2 children were left. Her husband, catching disease by helping a local church, died, leaving her and her children everything, along with her own family fortune. Selling the home and contents, Mary and her children boarded a ship for America before it was too late. Beecham House was finished by 1851, named after Mary's husband, Wallace Beecham. Mary made sure that her and her children would be comfortable. The land would be rented and worked to maintain the house, just like in Ireland. The Jones family were the first and only family to operate the left side of the hill, running a dairy farm, along with growing wheat. To the right of the hill, it wasn't about until 1870 the Shepherds rented and used it to house the horses that were used for the stagecoach they ran from Startton to the city. If you wanted to get around, it was by horse and carriage, and the Shepherds were the king of stagecoaches in the area. At some point, someone liked someone, and the 2 families became one. The history of his family goes back 172 years. The house changed over the years as each generation of the house would add rooms and wings, adding their taste in paintings and decor. Brian remembered all the stories as a kid as he walked through the hallways and up the stairs, glancing at all the faces that stared back at him from family members past. Officer Darby had cleared the house and allowed Brian to enter, now up the stairs to his bedroom and grab even more clothes. By this time, the plumbers and electricians had all left, so according to Darby, Brian would be the only one in the house, as Darby would wait out front. As Brian was packing the last of the clothing he was looking for, the power went out. Brian would be lying if he said the hair on his neck did not stand up, because of course your mind is going to think something bad. Well, Brian did with everything going on. Time to go. As Brian grabbed his duffel bag, he proceeded to look outside the room into the hallway and saw no one. Good. Down the hallway he went, Yet, as he was about to turn the corner, he caught the reflection of a figure through one of the mirrors, hanging up alongside the paintings. That was not Jordan, and definitely not Darby. Brian's only option was to quickly and quietly duck into a room, closing and locking the door behind him. He would be able to hide into the closet, hoping whoever this is does not find him. Crouching down and behind some shoe boxes, Brian hid and waited until he knew someone would come looking. He left his phone in the car, so there was no chance of sending a help text to Darby. If he could just hold out till Jordan showed up. The bedroom door handle started to make noise as Brian could hear it turning back and forth, trying to open the door. The dread and fear that he would be found and the murderer would just end him really didn't sit well with him, so this might turn into a fight and survive situation. The door finally opened, and Brian could hear footsteps walking into the room and stopping in the middle of the room. Then it was silent, until the closet door started to open. Hey everyone, Rylan here. Just a quick reminder that you can find more information about me and the stories I write by going to my Facebook at facebook.com/author.r.mason. From there, you can find updates, follow me on Instagram, talk to me, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen and for the support. An R. Mason Media Production. Copyright 2022.